So in terms of personal development, like what are some of the things you're working on to get to that next level, to get you into a new place in the future for growth? Like what are some of the things you focus on? Are there books you're reading? Are there classes you're taking? What are the types of things you focus on personally?
Yeah, I think all of those, right? So I think there's mentorship opportunities, there's books or blogs or, just all kinds of information, just different things that I read or listen or webinars that I attend, classes that I take, whatever it might be. It's all those things to try and just really understand how to be a more well-rounded person from that perspective. I always try and focus on not necessarily, I'm not a ladder climber, so I don't always think, I have to get to the VP spot, right? I think about how can I be the best person that I can be in this job that I'm in now, and that will help propel me and make me happy in what I'm doing, so that I'm not necessarily looking to see what's my next thing. It's how good am I going to be right now?
The one term that keeps coming up more and more that I talk with people in this, the most important term is empathy. And how you're deploying empathy within an organization, and empathy with obviously between the people working together, but also just directly with the customer. Before, the customer was held at bay. They were outside the walls, and they were waiting for you to hand them over things that then would improve their life, versus being a part of the actual creation of those things. And I think I see more and more because, like I like to say, transformation is about people, but in all honesty, it's about digital, it's about design, it's about technology too. But it's kind of the intersection of all those things, right? But if you were to say, like, what would success look like for you a year from now, 2 years from now? What does success look like for you and on the backside of all of this?
I think there's a lot of components to success, what success looks like for me in this, what this transformation looks like. It's about trying to figure out how these teams can be enabled to not only work more efficiently, and be able to focus on, one specific thing rather than 10 things, but really trying to deliver that value sooner. Or I think what we've had a big struggle with in the past is when to stop because it's not working or it's changed so dramatically that it doesn't make sense anymore, right? Don't just keep doing it because we've been doing it. So for me, it's to be able to do things more efficiently, quicker, so that we can get to market faster because we're working smarter and we're able to make those decisions because as the team, we feel like we own that experience for the customer, whoever that is, rather than just kind of fulfilling roles or fulfilling an order, so to speak.
Right.
Is really
for your direct supervisor.
Exactly. Yep. So I think it's really about that, and it's really about seeing that when the teams are working in this way, that they are happier. Right? Because I think right now in any organization, there's a lot of times where it's just you go in and you're cranking stuff out, right? And you really want to be proud of what you do and really feel fulfilled. And that's what I'm hoping that we can get some of that out of all of this.
How are you measuring that impact right now?
Right now, I would say it's still on a lot of those kind of canned metrics, which I really would like to get away from.
Sure.
I mean, they have some place and they're of some value, but it's very minuscule in what you want to try and track. We're really trying to go for, especially initially, I'm trying to create this assessment for these teams of saying, okay, where are you at now? And it really focuses on the principles. Are you, do you value these things, and are you doing these things differently because you want to do them, or do you think they're a waste of time? And then seeing how that evolves, but really focusing on the metrics that matter of, are we making the customer, who is our customer? Are we making them happy? How do we know we're making them happy? And how can we continue to evolve that?
So I want to unpack something you said there, and I think this goes back to what you were saying about creating an area of trust. Normally in a large organization, you go and ask somebody, what should we keep in? What should we keep out? They're going to be like, whatever you tell me to. I don't really care. Or maybe I do care, and if I say the wrong thing, I'm going to get either moved to a different team or laid off or something along those lines, right?
Right.
But is that kind of what you were saying about creating that atmosphere of trust, right? You need that advice or feedback to come back to you to say, like, I don't agree with the direction these things are going.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've tried to do that already with the teams that I've worked with is, I am not an expert. I would never claim to be an expert, right? I am so minuscule on my experience with this that I'm not an expert. So tell me what you think is you're blowing smoke,
Right.
and let's talk about that, because maybe there's a good reason why I'm trying to push on this, whatever this thing is, but you might have an even better reason why you think it's stupid. So let's talk about that.
Right.
And I try and encourage people to say, I want your ideas. I want your thoughts on how we can do things differently. This isn't me running the show, for crying out loud. This is really about how we can improve together as a team. So
right. And that's part of the culture thing. If they're used to, here comes the boss going to tell us what to do.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot to change that mindset.
Right.
And you've got to be creative. You can't just go about it in the typical fashion, because many of the times when you're going through these agile transformation, these people don't report to you.
Right.
So while you might not be the boss, you might be somebody, well, now I got to kind of work around this person now.
Sure.
Because I've seen that in other places, especially people that have rigid sort of metrics and timesheets and all these different things. It's that, so I've been the developer here for 3 years. I've learned how to kind of jimmy my timesheet enough to just kind of make me work about 32 hours a week. Because I overestimated on my points just enough to allow me to get out here early on Fridays and whichever. I've got this whole system down. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden this transformation comes up and it's like, what the hell? You're kind of blowing all this stuff up. And, there is times where I've seen people that drive and want change and carry the pitchforks and torches for change. But then when it actually shows up, they get scared. Mm-hmm. And, well, I want to change, but that's not the change I wanted. What change did you want? Well, the change that I suggested.
Right.
Not the change that you're bringing.
Right.
I think that's been one of the larger challenges I've seen in, any larger organization, because everybody's got ideas.
Right. Yeah.
But how do you surface those ideas in a way that's positive?
Right.
When you're doing retrospectives in these projects, you're obviously going over the work and those types of things. What other sorts of questions are you asking? Is it that, do you guys have better ideas? Or is it more of a social atmosphere that you're trying to produce? Or is it just focused on the work?
Yeah. And I actually don't do specific retrospectives myself anymore because I'm not leading an actual team. Mm-hmm. But I know that when I'm trying to coach teams even now, I try to get them to think about this. And so I'll show them, a metric of some sort and say, what do you guys think this story is being told here? I asked a team this today. And, there's silence for a minute, but then somebody popped up and said, well, I think it's because of this. And I said, okay, well, so then let's talk about that. What do you think about that? And trying to get, it's not me just saying, well, you know what this means? This means that you're going to be behind if you guys don't pick it. What do you think it means, right? Right? So it's that kind of really starting out at that very basic level to try and get them to give the information just by asking a few probing questions, because then I think then they can have ideas and feel more comfortable to bring those mm-hmm. and share those if you start asking those questions. All right, well, then how do you think we can solve that problem, right?
Yep. In terms of like what you want for the team, better, maybe not just to produce, better teams and better products and all those things. But what's your hope for the culture impact that this transformation is going to have within the organization? What, in your wildest hopes and dreams?
In my wildest hopes and dreams, I think that from a culture change perspective, I think, again, that the titles are left at the door. And I know that's harder for some people than others. But I think that's one of the big things, is that just trying to be somebody that wants to contribute in whatever way that you best can contribute, rather than saying I'm a specific titled this, so I have to do that. I think that's one of the biggest things. I would say also to have a team really feel that ownership, because we've given it to them, right? We've told you that
truly given it to them.
Yes, we've given you the power to make the decisions in the right way. You own it, you control it, it's yours, and having them have that sense of pride from that team, I think that's what I hope for them as well.
Has there been a book or a podcast or something that's been impactful for you in the last year or two that you would suggest for somebody listening to take a look at?
Boy, I think there's bits and pieces of things everywhere. And of course, the thing that I heard most recently is going to be the thing on the top of my mind, right? So I listened to one of Simon Sinek's TED Talks, about leadership and how to create that safe environment. And for me, it really hit home because of some of the things that he talked about of how leadership, some leaders don't create that safe environment. And it reminded me of an old job that I was at before General Mills.
Okay.
So, I think that was just something that was really profound to me because that applies across so many different levels of your own life that it's just, you can really apply it to a lot of different things. So recently that's one of the things that I just listened to this week that was really impactful for me.
That's very cool. Yeah. Always a fan of the cynic here.
Yeah.
Seems great. If people wanted to get in touch with you and maybe they have more questions or anything, where's a good place to contact Denise?
Yeah, you can contact me on LinkedIn or you can send me an email at General Mills. So
Cool.
Either way will work.
All right, cool. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today, Denise. I know you're busy with all the transformation going on there, but I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and chat on the show.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And that does it for today's show. I want to thank Denise for the amazing conversation. I learned so much. I've got a couple of speaking events coming up. The next one is going to be July 17th at Customer Focus North 2018. You can find more info at customerfn.com. And if you're interested in seeing some of the work my company does at foundrymakes.com, you should check it out. We just launched a new website not too long ago, and the team did a great job. So take a look, and I will catch you next week. Thanks for listening.